Hello everyone, Miss Carrie here. In today's video, I'm going to show you a few ways to add a little pizzazz to your die cut shapes. These techniques are simple and are going to elevate your card making projects. I've been asked to be a guest designer for Trinity Stamps today. This week we are celebrating Trinity's 6th birthday, so I thought it would be fun to share another celebratory card with you. For the Instagram and YouTube hop, I shared 2 cards using this Simply Sentimental Celebration stamp set. This is one of my new favorites. I love all the fonts and phrases in this collection. There is also a Simply Sentimental Celebration die set that you can purchase separately, and I'll be using it on my card today too. One of the other new releases this week is this adorable shovel and pail shaker die set. This little sand bucket can be used as a solid piece or turned into a shaker frame with the smaller inset die. There's also a shovel and some little embellishment pieces that can be used to decorate the shovel or the pail. I noticed that some of the creators used this to make some summer themed cards, but I thought it would be fun to turn this into a garden bucket. It's always fun to find new ways to use your dies, isn't it? This third die set is not part of the new release, but it is one that I feel is a must-have. Flower dies are my weakness, and if they have stitching, they are going right into my cart. This is a great collection of flower layers, leaves, and a butterfly. I like all the details, and I can't wait to show you how to use these pieces. As always, I encourage you to use the items you already have in your crafting collection, but if you would like a supply list or links to the items I'm using, I have provided those for you in the description below, along with a link to the Trinity Stamps shop. Let's go ahead and get started with the project. I'm going to start by cutting out all the pieces needed. The sand pail is going to be shaded with ink, so I'm going to cut it, the handle, and the shadow layer from smooth white cardstock. I'm going to speed through the process here because many of the items that you cut out for this card will be from cardstock or paper that you have in your scrap stash. Flowers look amazing cut from solids or patterns, and you can create a mix of the two on one flower. The Garden Flowers die set has some lovely stitching details, so make sure that your machine applies the correct amount of pressure to show those. I added a shim to mine. You can also cut your flowers from vellum, metallic paper, and glitter paper. If you're really feeling bold, you can add some fabric or felt layers too. Just like flowers, leaves can also be cut from solid or pattern paper. I'm also going to cut out a butterfly. This die set has 2 layers, so I'll cut one from a solid pattern, and I'll cut the other layer from vellum. I'm going to finish cutting out the rest of the pieces I need, and then I'll show you how to add some more details to your die cuts before we put the card together. I need to create a background for this card. I'm going to keep it simple with a speckled egg sky. Most of this is going to be covered with the flowers and the pail, so it doesn't need to be perfect. This is also going to have a border around it, so I've trimmed it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. All right, now we're going to add some color to that garden pail. I'm going to start with this light color of gray and blend it over the entire die cut. I chose to use a Distress Oxide because it will blend well with the other 2 gray layers I'm going to add. Feel free to use another color of ink or spray that you have in your collection. Around the sides of the pail, I'm going to add another layer of color. Similar to when I use watercolors or markers on my die cuts, I have selected one side for shading. With cylindrical items, it's essential to shade both sides to create a more rounded appearance. And then you enhance the color on the shadow side. This technique creates a three-dimensional effect and makes the object appear more lifelike. To deepen this even more, I'm going to add a third gray. This is to add some depth and realism, and it makes the object pop. It's important to blend your colors together well so that you don't have any harsh lines. That can make the shading look unnatural. Once the shading's complete, you can add some highlights with a light color or even a touch of white. I'm going to add this dark gray to the handle and the inset piece as well. You could also cut the handle from metallic paper or make it look like metal with embossing powder. I think it would be so much fun to make a vintage design with a rusted garden bucket. All right, I'm going to set this aside and show you how to elevate those flowers with a little ink and a pen. To make this easier, I've placed all the pieces onto a sticky mat. This is just a stamping platform insert, and it makes inking smaller petals so much easier. So I'm just going to bring in a small brush and add ink to each of the flower petals. To prevent blobs of ink, I like to tap off the excess in the lid. I'm going to keep grabbing ink from the lid and then I'll add to it throughout this entire process. I'm using a variety of inks that match the patterns or the cardstock colors. The complete list is in the description below. Now, you don't have to use matching ink. If you want to soften these, white pigment ink creates a dreamy, chalky finish. Or you could go for a bold, dynamic look with black ink. For a distressed or vintage look, use grays or browns, or rough up the edges with a sanding disc. Simple techniques like this can elevate your card designs, and they add awesome details to your flowers. Now, if you want to add even more to your die cuts, grab a white gel pen. These little blue flowers are super cute with their insets, but they really pop with a bit of white in the center. You could also use a colored pen or bring in some stickles, sequins, enamel dots, or gems. I also use my gel pen to add highlights to die cuts. On the shovel handle, I'm going to add a broken line over here on the left. You can also use your pens to enhance details that are already there. I know it's hard to see the stitching details on camera, but each of these petals has some embossed stitching details. I'm going to boost those by drawing white lines over the top. Doesn't that look amazing? With a pen, you can draw doodle lines on your petals or leaves, add dots to the centers of flowers, outline your die cut shapes, and bring in some folded petal details. Oh, I forgot to mention shimmer. In the Trinity Stamp shop, there are shimmer brushes. You can use those to add a coat of sparkle to the top of your flowers. Wouldn't that be pretty? All right, so now you've learned some new ways to enhance your die cuts. Let's take all these pieces and put the card together. I'm going to place this sky background in the center of some pattern paper, and then I'll bring in some cardstock to make the lawn at the base of the card. I don't own a die that creates fields of grass, so I'm just going to use my herb cutting scissors for this. Trinity Stamps has a die called Hills and Slopes, which would be perfect for making the lawn on this card, or you could just cut this by hand. Before I adhere these in place, I'm going to bend the grass blades a bit, and then I'll place them right here. I'm going to add foam tape to the lower layer so that my metal bucket can tuck in here too. I just need to move some of these grass blades around a bit, and then I'll tuck my bucket right over here on the right. I did add a little foam tape underneath this to add some dimension to the card. I am placing the handle in an odd location. It should probably sit at the top of the bucket, but I'm worried that it will be completely covered once I add all my flower layers. I'm going to finish this up by adding this layer right up here. All right, let's bring in our flowers. Off camera, I assembled all the pieces and I've started tucking these into the bucket. As you can see, I mixed and matched some of those flower layers when I created them. I also added those scallop details to the shovel. Isn't that so cute? This card is going to be a vivid summer birthday card, and all the colors and patterns I chose reflect that. I also like to create projects with vintage and muted hues, so I might make this card again using some boho patterns and colors. Wouldn't that be amazing? As I'm adding these to the card, I would love it if you took a moment to tap that thumbs up icon or the subscribe button. We always appreciate your support and enjoy answering your questions and comments that you leave below. Things like this help our channel grow. I'm going to tuck that sweet little shovel over here, and then I'll place the butterfly right here. I really like the addition of vellum to this design. To finish off the card, I'm going to bring in one of the Celebrate sentiments. I have prepped my black cardstock with some anti-static powder, and I'm going to stamp this script Celebrate with embossing ink. Over the top of the ink, I'm going to sprinkle fine white embossing powder. I did have a few flyaways, so I'll just remove these real quick with a dry paintbrush. I'm going to heat set this with a heat tool. It's so much fun watching that powder come to life, isn't it? Now that the powder is set, I'll grab the matching die and secure it in place over the stamped sentiment. Then I'll run this through my machine. I'm going to place this right here at the base of the card with some foam tape. And now we have another birthday card to add to our collection. How sweet is that? I'm going to share a few close-ups of this project with you so that you can see all the lovely details. I want to thank Trinity Stamps for inviting me to create a card for you today. I had so much fun sharing this project and showing you some simple ways to elevate your die cuts. There are multiple ways that you can add details with ink, pattern paper, and a gel pen. I hope this project inspired you to try something new. I want to thank you for joining me today. If you would like to see more of my projects, you can visit my channel or follow Miss Carrie's Creations online. If you have any questions about this project or the supplies I used, feel free to leave those in the comments below. I hope that you have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see what you create.